truth is quite simple. Our democracy is not in crisis, and we aren't going to let one party take over our democracy under the false pretense of saving it. Voter turnout last November blew 2016 and 28 out of the water. The 2020 election saw the highest turnout in decades. The hysterical attacks that the political left has thrown at the new election law in Georgia, for example, have been thoroughly debunked by fact checkers. African American turnout last fall was twice as high in Mississippi as it was in Massachusetts. None of the shifting, made-up rationales for this sweeping set of changes hold any water at all. The Democratic Party, on its own, wants to rewrite the ground rules of American politics for their benefit. We all know that's what this is about. It's hard to imagine anything that would erode public confidence in our democracy more drastically. This bill has purely partisan support in the House. It had bipartisan opposition. If this bill were to pass, nobody would have any confidence in it. None whatsoever. Let's call it what it is. Put aside the flowery language. This is a partisan effort to take over how you conduct elections in our country.
In the wake of the 2020 elections, deemed the most secure in American history by officials of the previous administration, former President Trump told a lie, a big lie, that the election was stolen. Without proof or evidence, the former president and his allies repeated this lie over and over again, poisoning faith in our democracy and fomenting an armed insurrection at the Capitol. And now, in states across the country, Republican legislatures have seized on the big lie to restrict the franchise and inevitably make it harder for African Americans, Latinos, students, and the working poor to vote. Here in the 21st century, we are witnessing an attempt at the greatest contraction of voting rights since the end of Reconstruction and the beginning of Jim Crow. I want to be very clear today. These laws have no justification rooted in fact or purpose other than the desire for raw political advantage. Don't tell us these laws are about voter fraud. You're more likely in America to be struck by lightning than commit voter fraud. Don't tell us these laws are about strengthening our elections. Shortening the early vote doesn't strengthen our elections. Limiting the number of drop boxes doesn't strengthen our elections. Criminalizing food and water to voters doesn't strengthen our elections. These laws are about one thing and one thing alone: making it harder for Americans to vote. They are reprehensible in my judgment. They are anti-democratic in the judgment of most, and they carry the stench of oppression. The bill before this committee has a very simple premise: make it easier, not harder, to vote. S1 would nullify many of these voter suppression laws and protect the rights of American voters.
Hey, thanks for watching Bloomberg Quick Take Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune in to our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, documentaries, interviews, deep dives, and shows on the stories that you care most about.